1974 elections are going to be so unusually crucial to the future of our nation and our party that I wanted to take this opportunity to send this very personal message to you. I'm Senator Bill Brock, and as chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, I have the job of re-electing the Republican senators who are up this year and electing as many new Republicans as we can. I want you to know how much I appreciate your help in that regard. You've already done so much, and in asking you to do more, I'd like to call on our friend, the Vice President of the United States and President of the Senate, Gerald Ford. Mr. Vice President, I want you to know that you're speaking to a person who is dedicated to good government, just as you and I are.
Bill, I understand completely, and I appreciate this chance to talk about our situation this year. As presiding officer of the Senate, I've had a chance to observe, sadly, how we on the Republican side of the aisle are voted down time and time again by the Democrats when we, as Republicans, offer sound proposals for managing this incredibly complex government that we have. Worse yet, they are able, because of their superior numbers, to pass their own bills with relative ease. And let me tell you, some of that legislation is pretty irresponsible. There is little consideration of the taxpayers. We see some woolly social schemes and programs which would adversely affect our small businesses and other free institutions. And so often, some Democrats seem to have no appreciation whatever for the tremendously important questions of national security. Now let me show you how it works. They have all the committee chairmen and majorities on all of the committees. So whenever they get a bill together, they are able to bring it to the floor without much difficulty at all. Once there, if they can hold their own people together, they can pass it. Then we have to count on the House of Representatives or a presidential veto to stop it, or else it becomes law. But here's the thing that really worries me. George Meany and some of the other Democratic leaders have stated publicly that their goal in 1974 is to elect a veto-proof Congress. That is, one in which they would have 2/3 in each house. If they ever get that, we'll be almost helpless to keep even the wildest schemes from becoming law. They're working very hard at it and are going to spend millions in this election to get the job done. We've got to stop them to keep some balance in the Congress and to prevent a legislative dictatorship by the wildest segment of the Democratic Party.
That's absolutely right. And that's going to require a superb effort on the part of each of us. You know, I've never had the privilege of serving in a legislative body in which we had a Republican majority. Just for once, I'd like to see what it's like. For example, I serve on the Senate Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee. And if we had a Republican majority, John Tower would become the chairman of that group. What a great day that would be. Senator Tower is one of the finest Americans I have ever known. And I'd like him to give you an idea of some of the issues in this election, because they are the things we could accomplish or prevent in the Senate if we had enough Republicans sitting here. John?
The single most important issue facing the nation is inflation. Inflation can never be controlled until government spending is controlled. As a general rule, the Democratic Party has not adhered to this basic principle. Their philosophy has been traditionally and continues to be solving problems through federal spending. They give very little attention to reviewing those massive programs once they are implemented and exclude state and local governments from the problem solving. Now, this is quite evident in their threat not to extend revenue sharing, the most significant change in federal domestic policy since the 1930s. Another area of concern is the insensitivity by government to small business. American businessmen spend $18 billion a year just to fill out and return federal forms. Agencies like the Department of Health, Education and Welfare, the Environmental Protection Agency, and worst of all, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, are harassing our small businessmen, I'd like a chance to replace these programs with sound Republican policies that will work and won't bleed the taxpayers dry, which the current schemes advanced by recent Congresses have. In the energy field, the philosophy of the Democratic Party has been a knee-jerk one. None of their proposals include constructive ways to increase the supply of energy. A number of Democrats have suggested the creation of a new federal government corporation to produce oil. If history is at all to be consulted, we must conclude that to put the government bureaucracy in this field would be disastrous, not to mention what it would do to traditional concepts of free enterprise. These are just a few of the many important problems the nation faces today.
I think John Towers put it very well and identified some of the key issues that ought to be addressed by the Congress, but won't be unless we can do the job of electing more Republicans this fall. However important specific issues are, though, I think there is something that goes even farther. It has to do with the kind of a future we all want for ourselves and for our children in this country. The ideals upon which our party was founded and which have guided it throughout its history are true to this day. Sadly, our political scandals have given our opponents an opportunity to attack those ideals as never before. And if we are to preserve them, we must redouble our efforts and find that strength which comes from adversity. In our time, no one has articulated the Republican philosophy with greater force and clarity than the great governor of California, Ronald Reagan. Governor?
I think it's especially important in these times to remember that we Republicans do stand for some vitally important principles. We don't always agree among ourselves. Our party is no monolith, and I pray that it never becomes one. But through it all, a discerning student can perceive some fundamental differences between the two parties, differences which are immensely important for the future of America. Some of the best evidence comes from just thinking about the direction our country has taken during our lifetimes. Remember that the Democrats have controlled all but 2 Congresses since 1932. What sort of leadership have they given us? Think about it. Taxes that have escalated beyond the wildest imaginations of anyone in 1932. Virtually constant, ever-mounting inflation. More years of war than any other 40-year period in American history. Ever-growing strength of the most dangerous foreign enemy we've known, international communism. Constant diminution of our individual liberties, surrendered to increasing hordes of bureaucrats, constantly gaining new authority to pry and snoop and interfere into every aspect of our lives. Crime, drugs, moral decay, the replacing of the work ethic with the welfare ethic. It's quite a story, and for me a sad one. Read the history of the world and see what's been the result of similar trends in other nations. Will the decline and fall of America be written about in our times? It need not be. It must not be. Within our party, the Republican Party, lie the essential understandings of history and human nature which can save America. Republicans believe in individual liberty, that people allowed to be free can solve their own problems far better than government programs which restrict freedom. Republicans believe in the economic counterpart of liberty, the free market system, which has demonstrated the capacity to provide for our material needs far better than any scheme for government-operated economic control. Republicans believe that that government is best which is closest to the people, and that all power should not be given to Washington at the expense of our vital state and local governments. Republicans believe that national security is attainable only by maintaining national strength, buttressed by diplomatic skill and common sense. Republicans believe that those who violate the law must be made to pay the penalties of the law, be they the crimes of Watergate or the crimes of the street. You and I believe in these things, and in 1974, we must put our beliefs to work as never before.
That's it. That's the message. We couldn't ask for it any clearer. We can do this job, and we need your help. You know, I've never seen such outstanding candidates as we have this year. You know the issues. To present this message, we must have the resources. There is a return envelope enclosed with this record. Please give us your continued and renewed support. Thank you very much.